Time to feed the trolls.
Season 2!
I'm sorry. I just love my country, and I fear for it.
Hello, this is Cute Fuzzy Weasel, and I got a haircut. Way too short. And welcome to Feeding the Trolls. Now, before we start, I'd like to give a shout out to Millie M. Banshee, who has her own show called Paint by Music. And in a recent episode, she painted yours truly. Now, as a kind of thank you to her, I'll be linking to her channel below and at the end of this video. And of course, we have a new honorary background. Anyway, this week's troll is probably one that I've been looking forward to the most. I actually wanted to do them all the way back in 2011, but I got sidetracked by one thing or another. School, real life, hair loss, a whole manner of things. Now I've got time and I finally found a good clip to do, so here he is, the one and only Glenn Beck.
This network strives to bring you the truth. The stories and the angles not being covered in the mainstream media.
Coming up next, is Obama a demonic reptilian shapeshifter from Mars? We ask the questions. Your paranoid delusions fill in the answer.
And,
yes?
that's not always easy. Sometimes it's simple, as it was with Sandy Hook.
Ah, God damn it. Why do I keep picking videos about mass shootings?
The media went into its usual formulaic anti-gun messaging.
Whoa, 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 what the fuck was up with that cutting? Seriously, you could have just kept it at that angle. I mean, there's no reason to switch up a shot when you've got a perfectly good angle. I mean, he's facing the camera. We can tell what he's talking about. I mean, come on, why not just stay on his face?
But instead, this network decided to look for the real problems. We dug a little deeper.
Yeah, and you hit the septic tank.
Do you remember this episode?
The video games are the trainers. I tell my cops, I say, you know what the simulator does for you. You're in the simulator, and the bad guy does this, and boom, you
Okay,
shoot.
stop for a second. I mean, just totally unrelated. Doesn't that guy look like this guy? I wonder if they're related. Hey, don't get offended. I'm just asking the questions.
Stimulus response, stimulus response. And when the bad guy does it in real life, boom, you shoot without conscious thought. You have done what we call precognitive loading. You don't even have to think. A bad guy does this, boom, I'm going to shoot. Well, they have been in their simulators. The gangbangers played Grand Theft Auto since they were 5 years old, every spare minute of every day, practicing blowing cops' heads off.
Actually, for the most part, all I did was jump off of things and run cars into stuff.
Across America, we have an explosion of gang violence, and they train from their youngest days with the video games.
Because operating one of these is exactly the same as operating one of these.
So we just left one indoctrination, and now let's move to the other.
Hold on. Wait a second. Video games indoctrinate people? What the fuck does Skyrim indoctrinate you to do? Commit genocide against dragons? What about Sim City? I mean, what does that do? Indoctrinate you to think you can control tornadoes? Or Angry Birds? What is that supposed to brainwash us into picking up, like, birds and tossing them at pigs? But let's continue on with this delusion. I want to see where it's going.
The promotion of violence through Hollywood, TV, and video games gets a total pass from the media.
Actually, that statement is absolutely right. Because as we all know, no one in the entire history of the human race has ever once brought up the issue of violence in media until Glenn Beck came along. It's like he's some kind of prophet.
I want to make it very clear. I do not believe in banning television, movies, or anything like that. Just awareness.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying playing GTA is going to turn your kid into some kind of horrible rapist, gangbanger, drug user. All I'm saying is that playing GTA will turn your child into some kind of horrible rapist, gangbanging drug user.
We are, I think, the only network that is sticking to the truth here on this one.
And by truth, he means, well, play it again.
The core of why so many kids and others like them are resorting to such heinous acts. How are kids killing kids now?
Which, as we know, has never happened in history before.
Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman couldn't confirm it at the time, but he's an expert in the field and he knows when he sees it. Now, that was the past. Let me show you the story that while all of this gun control talk is going on, no one is standing on. CBS News has reported, but then it just disappeared, that Adam Lanza, the guy who was the shooter and the killer in the Sandy Hook massacre, had, quote, a trove of violent video games and would actually black out his game room so the only reality in the room was his TV screen.
Oh my God! You mean to tell me that Adam Lanza closed his windows to reduce the glare on his television? What does our society come to when people have to close their windows so the sun doesn't make it hard to see stuff on the TV? Why have you forsaken us, O Lord?
The report stated that Lanza also wanted to kill more people than the crazed Norwegian guy who murdered 77 people in July 2011.
Well, I imagine he would. He was fucking insane. For the record, that CBS report that Glenn Beck uses... Oh, and side note, Glenn Beck hates CBS, and the only reason he's using this report is because it corroborates what he already thinks. The CBS report that he's using cited an unnamed law enforcement officer that said that they speculated that video games may have been involved. The key word there is speculation. And yeah, CBS dropped it. Because again, speculation. I mean, when people try and pin this kind of thing on video games, it hits me deep inside because I just love my video games, and I fear for them. And you know, sometimes when I think about the direction this country is going, I can't help but want to buy gold from Goldline. Goldline, selling overpriced gold coins to old people.
Lanza apparently chose Sandy Hook because it was the easiest target. Of course, it's a gun-free zone, and also had the largest cluster of people. Lanza saw his victims as merely characters in a video game. Hear me clearly. This is exactly what we reported on the week this happened, that they were mere characters in a video game. And he believed every kill would increase his score.
And Glenn Beck knows this because through the powers of speculation, he's able to read the mind of a dead person.
That is exactly what Dave Grossman told us.
David Grossman, who, by the way, is a notorious anti-video game journalist.
We are living in dangerous and perilous times.
And the only way we're going to survive this world together is by linking up through FreedomWorks. FreedomWorks. We're totally not one of the many faces of Coke Industries.
We must do everything we can to keep our family members, our children, and those we know awake for as long as we can.
Because if they go to sleep, then Obama's going to use his Martian mind ray to convince them that he's Jesus.
We have to do everything we can to make sure that the heart does not grow cold. Virtual reality is meshing now with reality, and we're at the very beginning of this.
And when I go outside, the sky is the color of a television tuned to static. Water has the texture of styrofoam, and planes like neon lights whiz through the air. Did you get it? It's a Neuromancer reference.
Our sons and daughters are becoming desensitized to right and wrong.
As you see them.
A few years ago, we stood on the mall in Washington, D.C.
Oh, God, not this. Not one of your fucking stories.
Grabbing onto our kids. We put the country on notice that the time for waving signs had passed, that we were going to pick up the torch.
And burn down the White House to get rid of Obama's demonic spider egg sack. Didn't you know Obama's a demonic shape-shifting reptilian spider alien from Mars? But conspiracy nut, you might say. Didn't you say Obama was from Kenya? That's right, he is from Kenya. The Martian Kenya.
It is time for action, but action that I never saw coming.
What the What? You never saw something coming? But you're like a super person who can read the minds of dead people. You're right all the time. Except for the election. And the country collapsing in 2011. And the country collapsing in 2010. And the country collapsing in 2009.
If your kid is playing these video games, you have to step up now. I beg you, pray on it if you want confirmation.
God, should I play Modern Warfare 3? This is God. You should play Call of Duty because every other game is a ripoff of Call of Duty. Like Halo and Quake and Doom.
I'm not preaching to you. I'm going through this now with my own 2 kids. And they just want to play video games. My son is really into Minecraft.
Minecraft? Holy fuck! Don't you know Minecraft's responsible for 9/11? Remember when the Australians and their balaclavas bombed us?
I mean, I look at it and I'm like, it's not that bad. But I'm telling you, let your kids play with it for a while. And before you know it, it's all they talk about.
And God forbid your kids ever have any kind of interest in anything.
I'm trying to convince now the friends, or his friends' parents, our friends, to not allow video games to be played when he is over.
Wow, that's really... I feel really bad for your kids, to be perfectly honest.
I mean, it's tough. But the only way we'll survive is if we pull together as a team.
A team that is dedicated to destroying video games and buying MREs. Yes, MREs, buy them because Obama something. He's coming for your guns. He's coming for your MREs. It's gonna be a disaster. Run, my Tea Party lackeys, run!
Video games for our children, not for adults. But video games are a gateway drug for our kids.
Video games are not a gateway drug, all right? Damn it, hold on, I'm getting the itch.
And instead of a high, they get a numbness.
Well, actually, it's less of a numbness and more of a pain in our wrist and our ass. And we get fatter.
They get an indifferent heart and a mind that cannot tell the difference between fiction and reality.
You know what, Glenn? You just... What? Don't look at me like that. It works. After all, I'm a gamer. I don't know the difference between reality and fiction, right? Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a box I've been meaning to make, so I'm gonna go outside and punch some trees.
This is medical fact. This is not crazy theory.
It is crazy theory, Beck. There has never been any clinical study definitively showing a link between exposure to violent video games and violent behavior. The only study that ever came close was fundamentally flawed because its sample group consisted of only 10 people. So, yeah, Glenn, you're talking out your ass.
Growing up, I lived in the Pacific Northwest, and I loved spring because there was just a few days where we could actually play outside. And in those days, we couldn't afford anything but our imaginations.
Hey, I'll be right back.
But it was more
I'm just
than
gonna
enough.
go grab something.
I am fortunate enough to have a place now in the mountains where we have just a little farm, and these are our friends' horses. And we just go spend
I had to
our
grab
summers
some of this.
And everybody, I'd say the kids, but everybody in the family hates it at first, for the first day or so, because there's no electricity. There's none of any of the gadgets that we have easy access to normally. There's no phones, there's no computers, there's nothing. And everybody moans and complains for a while.
Well, I imagine living without electricity would be a pretty big setback, Glenn.
But then we detox. It takes us 1 or 2 days.
Yeah, detox from the dangers of electricity. I'm sorry, I can't get over this. I can understand no TV and no computers. I can even understand, like, no phone, or maybe just having one phone that's only used for emergencies. But no fucking electricity? No lights? I mean, yes, I know you can have lamps, but Like no heating? And don't give me that bullshit about fucking fireplaces. I watched Mythbusters. Fireplaces don't actually heat your house. Now maybe he's got one of those wood heating furnace things that keeps everything going. Except he said he only goes there in the summer, so he wouldn't have a real need for heating. Okay, what about cooling? Do you go off and buy a big slab of ice? I know you don't have any fans because fans require electricity. Maybe he's got a solar-powered fan. No, because solar energy is green and the only good energy comes from coal. Or oil.
And one by one, we all stop thinking about the phones or the TV or the whatever gadget it is. And everybody, one by one, discovers each other, and our children discover their imagination.
Ah, yes, because us people who play video games have no imagination. No, really, we don't. It just gets sucked right out of our eyes and into the computer so Obama can see it.
And they realize that their imagination is far more fun than any toy or any phone or any iPad could ever be.
Which is why they pick up sticks and make toys out of them, Glenn. Because toys are awesome. They're a tool, you know, kind of like how a computer is a tool. And a video game is, you know, a toy. A video game could actually be considered a tool. No, hear me out. Hear me out. It helps you imagine. Really, it does, Glenn. Have you ever played Minecraft? You get to build things. You don't think that takes imagination? You don't think it takes some, you know, creativity to build dungeons and a castle and farms?
Sticks and rocks and bugs and trees are no longer the complaint, but the canvas.
Yes, playing with Black Widow spiders, rotten wood, and boulders is fun.
And boy, can kids create. It's amazing to see what they actually will come up with next.
It's amazing to see what you'll make up next too, Glenn.
As strange as it may sound, my favorite memory, the happiest moment of my vacation last summer, was when we were up at the ranch and my kids came in and they asked for a jar with a lid. I knew exactly what they were doing.
Torturing animals in an inescapable glass prison.
And I took out a nail and we put holes in that lid. I can't wait to go back and chase a cow.
Isn't that a mite bit dangerous, Glenn? I mean, you know that animal can turn, you know, right back around and start chasing you.
Throw a rock.
At a cow.
Be simple. Because life is good when life is simple.
Yes, and especially when it's simple up here. Anyway, that was Glenn Beck. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you have any trolls you want me to feed, list them in the comments below. And, you know, before I go, I just want to apologize that I didn't put anything out last week. I was in an auto accident, and it kind of screwed up my whole schedule. Anyway, I'm back now, and I'm going to try and throw out as many videos as I can this week, so hopefully you'll see the magic vlog and a new episode of Brody's Mind by Friday. Anyway, this is Cute Fuzzy Weasel saying, have a good night. Wait. God! Oh yeah, it was actually pretty safe. You know what? Screw this, let's just dump a bunch of on the pizza.